when women come together, incredible things happen, and that is the basis of a lot of the content that resonates with our audience.
Welcome to Confessions of a Social Media Manager with me, Erin from Agorapulse. Today I have with me Daisy Guy. Daisy is a social media content executive for the Albright, an exclusive private members club for women. First opening in London 2018, the Albright aims to connect brilliant, ambitious and career-minded women. From physical spaces located in the heart of Mayfair, where they host events, talks and even gym classes, to the Albright Plus digital space, which hosts their Academy of Career courses. They take their mission to bring together CEOs, executives and entrepreneurs very seriously. The club itself is brilliant. I have been, but I am hoping that I can, blag myself a membership by the end of this interview. Hopefully Daisy can sort me out. Daisy's job is to promote all of the above on social. Daisy has been working for over 4 years in social media, doing everything from content creation to copywriting to marketing for established brands and startups. For Daisy, social media has dovetailed into her interest in journalism. She became a picture assistant at Mr. Porter, a men's luxury fashion brand, where she was tasked with finding pictures from everything to waterfalls to Timothée Chalamet. Looking for a further challenge, she moved on to roles at startups, which allowed her to go deeper into content creation and social media marketing. When the pandemic hit, a social media role at the Albright showed up. She's always been interested in the Albright's hybrid model of co-working space meets private members club, and its mission statement of creating a global community to advance women's careers. Daisy is tasked with running and creating content for their Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, which has a combined follower rate of around a cool 100k. When asked to describe her social media career so far, she said exciting, varied, and challenging. Welcome, Daisy.
Hi, it's so great to be here. Thank you for that brilliant introduction, Erin.
It's all you, so you are the brilliant person. Thank you so much for joining me. When I came across the Albright myself, obviously I was super duper impressed. I think the first time I went there was for a gym class, and I was just amazed by all these brilliant women in Rixo dresses who clearly knew what they were doing with their lives. And the concept of a women's private members club is, fascinating, and there are obviously obvious reasons for that space being created. Could you talk about more your role day to day as a social media content executive and how that works?
Of course, yeah, I love that you have been to the club. It's always so great to hear, because it is the company itself has expanded so much since it originally was founded, like as solely a private members club, and that is now only like one part of the business, because and super important with social is when the pandemic hit, they completely pivoted to offer a digital platform and a digital community, which is now free to join. So you've kind of gone from this exclusive, amazing private members club to a completely open, our motto is like all women, all careers, all stages. So offering that is something that we've been trying on social, like how do we communicate both of these opportunities, because we still have the club in Mayfair and then now this digital opportunity and community as well. So that is, as my role as social content executive has developed, everything, as I'm sure all the other social media managers on this podcast have explained, is everything from content creation, copywriting, video editing, community management, being a customer service rep, it's involving like all touch points across the social channels. So Albright has Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, and more recently Instagram has definitely been a focus, our priority focus as the business. It's just such an amazing space to be able to showcase the variety of content that we do, and a lot of the content is events at the moment, which is amazing women, inspiring women coming on the digital platform and telling this community their stories for free. So that's an amazing thing that we've been able to kind of utilize, especially with social, to say we've got this community on social and you can join us in this event, and like opening it up to a wider audience. So that's been a really, really key part of the role, is how we're communicating the community aspect of the business, and getting more women to connect with each other, both on our social channels, but also within the Albright community itself.
That's brilliant. I think what you've touched on as well is that what I've noticed from everyone I'm talking to at the moment is that the pandemic gave them a real shift in the way that they had to approach social. And I can see that, the Albright have really leaned into that, not shied away from it at all. If someone could ask you about starting a career in social media, what would be the first piece of advice you would give them?
My first piece of advice, which is definitely drawing on my own experience, is to, if it interests you, like if it's one element or the whole thing, then just to go for it, and to not let anything hold you back if you're really interested in a career. Because my career path into social media wouldn't be your normal, as they would say, trajectory into social media, but just you don't need to have like a marketing degree or have 5 social media internships to transition into a career in social media, because social media managers need to be a multi-hyphenate and wear many hats, as the saying goes, on a daily basis. I really think that you don't let it hold you back, and if it interests you, then to just go for it in a career.
I've noticed this too, is that you get either people in social who have like first day dot social media out of whatever, anything, or you've got people who come in left field and sort of move their way towards it and picked up the skills that can be applied to social media. So I imagine you worked at, Mr. Porter and all those places that probably required you to really be on brand. It wasn't necessarily social media, but you really understood like the importance of those things, which you do need for social media when you're obviously in-house or agency, the importance of bringing those things together. So what is a typical day like for you then?
A typical day for me at Albright will probably involve a brand marketing meeting. So that's working with our head of marketing, email, events, as I touched on. We work really closely with events, and as a brand marketing team, looking at activations coming up for the month. What are the big dates, like International Women's Day or Black History Month? And those are the ones that we need to be telling the stories of our community, and then working it down through each channel, how best to communicate that. And then in a normal day, it will be creating content related to all of the above, scheduling content, writing captions, planning content ahead as much as we can when we have the time to, and also engagement, which is really rewarding part of the role as well. Looking at engaging with our followers, seeing what everyone's up to, responding to questions, queries, DMs. That is a varied day, but a typical day for me.
It sounds like you do so much. Are you the only social media expert in your team then?
I am. Yes, I am. The team has, as mentioned, as the company's kind of pivoted and changed so much, there's been a lot of internal team change. So I did work, my boss who hired me, she was head of content and head of social. So I was learning a lot from her. And now it's just me. So it's been the past since, 2021 has been just me. So that's been a learning curve in itself. But is again, those wearing those hats and organization has just been key for me to manage all the different parts of the role.
It sounds incredibly hectic, and I'll get to that later when you talk about, because it's sort of touching on work-life balance, which I want to ask you about. The concept of doing social media and promoting something that is basically, private. The whole concept of it is, exclusivity, which, matches social media, but it is a private space. Women have to apply to come join the Albright. They have to be, have certain credentials. How did you manage that? How did you obviously want to get those things in place to balance the exclusivity of the Albright to entice people, but not give everything away, because the whole point is that you're meant to join and you get more that you don't know about.
Yeah, it's definitely, as you said, something that comes up in every meeting, and whether we're getting and the balance right. Because as soon as we say we're like for all women and all careers, you're not, every piece of content is not always going to connect with that woman. So we have an elevator program similarly to which is for senior leaders looking to step up into C-suite level. But then we also have our sisterhood matching, which we want people to come in and connect with people at the very, very start of their careers using the digital free platform. So that balance is always a tricky point on social, exactly as you said, like how much do you create the fear of missing out, like FOMO aspect of this is a community you need and want to be a part of, and then also saying we're open to all and we're here for you. So it is definitely a balancing act between finding content that resonates with a wide audience and also creating that sense of that you're missing out of something that you want to be a part of.
Well, I definitely think that Albright does FOMO well, because I have been like, I think, and I've been watching it, and it's just so clear. Like, I want to be there. I want to be on the terrace doing those things. Aside from my own personal FOMO, what you've said is community. Community is so big, and obviously in the past 2 years, especially a year and a half specifically, social media brands have focused on making community a part of their process and an aim of their content. What have you learned along the way about building community online?
Yeah, it's such an interesting one because it's definitely something that's, again, is a word that is maybe overused in the space that everyone's got a community now, whether it's an email subscriber or just your influencer platform. It's amazing. People, especially like influencers, I admire them so much. They do create such highly engaged communities that live on their Instagrams or their YouTubes. And that balance between a brand as well, putting the brand face out there rather than a personal, like speaking to a person, is been a challenge for sure to create that same community aspect. But I've been very lucky with Albright in that community is what Albright is built on. It's in neon in the walls in the club and is our hashtag Sisterhood Works, which is a touch point we use across all of our content, that when women come together, incredible things happen. And that is the basis of a lot of the content that resonates with our audience and that we're creating. So in that sense, building community has been number one for Albright. Again, for different brands, how you create a community for a coffee brand or a pet shop will be probably a completely different process. So yeah, I kind of have that one side of it, and I bet loads of people have really different experiences.
So, is there anything exciting that you're working on at the moment?
Yes, I love this question because it does make it makes you everything what is coming out especially as exciting at the moment. And I think for me we're working on a refresh of our social templates and design. So yeah, look out for that one. As we've kind of grown and evolved, as we know, social media is always changing, and it's that you always see, or I always see as a social media manager, these like warnings, like don't create a whole new rebrand like all the time, like stick to what you know. So there's that, again, that balancing act between adapting it as you grow, to completely throwing something new in, but a refresh, we're calling it a refresh because I think that is what it is to us. It's just like refreshing what we already have, but it gives you the opportunity to step back and create new content in line with a refresh, where just another space to be like, okay, what are we doing here that we can do better? What can we introduce that is new? So definitely creating new content aligned with what hopefully our audience is looking for is definitely exciting to work with.
How long are you giving yourselves for this process of a refresh?
It's been in the works for a while. So again, a lot of looking at data, at what our audience is already engaging with. We have a design team in-house at Albright, which is great to work with. So when I say I create the content, I'm working off templates they have already created, which is super useful. And I love working with their creative brains on that and having those minds in the process. So it's kind of feeding back between this is what we'd like, and then the design team coming through, and then merging the minds together in the departments. And so it's kind of been a continuous process over the past few months, and then we'll start rolling it out gradually.
So, as the Albright, the aim is to get more people within the community contribute to the community. You probably also have an aim of getting sign-ups, so funneling those community members into paid members. Where does success look like for you then within that space on social media?
It's a great question to come back to. As you said, our like business objectives. We have brand awareness, driving traffic to the website, new members, getting free members through the door, and get more people in the community. They're our kind of top line objectives. But success for me, and I'm so interested to listen to the podcast and see what all the other social media managers say, but is definitely engagement, seeing people engage with our content, really resonating with a quote from a woman about how she quit her job and had no backup, and then someone saying this has really inspired me to do the same. It is just really rewarding part of the role. And again, I'm lucky that with the Albright content, that is a given a lot of the time. But it's definitely success for me is seeing people engage and seeing people, it inspire people and it really resonate with them.
Speaking of engagement, so there are many ways you can aim to get engagement online. You can do it in an organic way, or you can push it with paid. What is your approach with organic versus paid?
It's really interesting with the company. So we had, I've solely focused on organic social, and then we also had a digital marketing manager who has worked on paid social. So historically, the roles have lived quite independently of each other in terms of creative and briefs and what's working there. But as we've kind of transitioned, again, changing so much always the business, we're looking at bringing them working more closely together. As a lot of the time you're kind of repeating the same content, but with slight tweaks. So it will be looking at more what we're putting out there, people are already engaging with, and then how can we boost this or put paid spend behind it just so it reaches a wider audience of people that we know, content that we know is already engaging.
So you would say you're in the position of like, let's boost a post rather than pushing paid advertising campaigns on social?
So historically it was been more like paid advertising campaigns, and then organic have just lived separately. And like, as we know, like our organic audience is could have been following us for 4 years, and they're going to resonate with something differently than the paid audience was. So it will be an interesting transition if we're bringing those two together.
What channel is working well for you then, engagement wise?
I definitely say Instagram. It's where I've putting the most focus in playing. So it's like time and effort. You do see the reward. So also, and then secondly, LinkedIn has been a platform which makes sense completely for Albright as a network and as a community, that we can grow on there, and have been doing some really interesting experiments on LinkedIn with engagement, and the difference in content when you see what gets engagement on Instagram compared to LinkedIn is really different. So that's something we're experimenting with as well.
Yeah, LinkedIn just seems completely obvious for the Albright and their sort of like career-minded women. I imagine that like obviously the tone is so different. Like it is very, very. They have different. Instagram and LinkedIn have different auras, and you really have to push different types of content. And that is, that is repurposing, that is cross-posting. But the key is that you can have that one piece of content, but it just needs to be aspected in a different way, which obviously will, save any social media manager time. That's a little tip for them. You are the social media expert in your team. You seem to do everything from strategy right down to writing the captions, the granular stuff. How do you manage a work-life balance, especially within social media, because it never stops?
It's a very good question. And yeah, definitely something I'm still working on, and I'm pretty sure will be always. Um, my top tip for anyone, just and I'm sure it will be repeated, is schedule. It can be so easy to get behind with so much that's going on in the space, and before you know it, you're working that on the day. And even if you're just spending those block out everything just so you can get that scheduling done and be able to switch off at the weekends. And I guess another tip would just be not to fret too much about the small things. It's so easy to see on a Sunday night or a Monday, I'm like, oh, I missed that repost of that story because it's now gone, and really worry about it. And I think it's just learning how to compartmentalize, like, okay, that wasn't not too big of a deal. Like you can breathe easy with that. So it's definitely managing the priorities and what is the big deal versus not. Also, the reactive element of social media, I think, is definitely a pressure on anyone that works in the space, that we need to be reacting to any topic or anything that's going viral. But if for work-life balance, I'd say be reactive to the things that are relevant and important to your brand or your company. And we don't need to jump on every single TikTok meme or trend that's out there, just to not worry about it too much.
Brilliant advice, especially on the reactivity. I echo exactly what you say. Obviously, we work in a reactive space, but not everything is going to fit you. Don't do a meme the Met if you really can't make it fit with your brand. And obviously that ties into FOMO, and like we want to be getting engagement, and those reactive things can bring quick engagement, but they don't fit with your brand. That's just generally worse for you.
Exactly. That's always a tricky one because you want to be. I literally had the same one with Meme the Met, and I was trying different things, and I was like, no, this isn't working. And yeah, to not stress if it doesn't work for you.
You touched on scheduling tools as well, so I can do beautiful plug and say Agorapulse. You can schedule content with Agorapulse. You can queue stuff. You can schedule things in advance in the future. It's brilliant. If you want to download it, I suggest you download it.
No, I highly recommend as well.
Thank you. Oh my God, love it. So, what skills do you think are essential for a good social media manager? Because you've mentioned a few that you've sort of touched upon, like kind of compartmentalizing. What else do you think is essential for a good social media manager?
Apparently, I'm loving C's today because I'm about to say three more, but I'd say my top three, amongst all the other hats that social media managers have to wear, would be creativity, communication, and confidence. And I say those creativity plainly, you want to be coming up with new ideas, you want to be reactive, even just visually creating a feed or creating an Instagram story, where to put a sticker versus a link, is really great for anyone who's creatively minded in engaging that creative side of your brain. Communication, you're the voice of the brand on social. Everything that you're putting out there is probably the first instance a lot of people are seeing your brand or your new event or your new product. So it's super important. And also communicating internally, communicating to leadership what how this content performed, is super important. And then I say confidence because if you're especially working in a smaller team and a busy team, you're not always going to get the sign off for that caption or that meme. And it's just having the confidence to say, I know this is right for my brand, I'm going to post it. And also, I know this isn't, I'm going to take that measure as well. So just having confidence in your ability and skills and trusting your judgment.
Absolutely. What you've mentioned is that social media managers and the people who do social are not always the last to hear what's going on with in the brand, but they're basically always the first person to know what the initiatives or the things that they're putting out are feeling or have been felt with the audience. So they are social media managers are at the front line of hearing everything about the brand and as you said, it's a job to really go back to everybody and say, yeah, we had this campaign and we thought it was going to do really well, but really people didn't like it, or it brought out these kinds of comments or these kinds of things. And then that ties into the kind of thing that you're saying about confidence. It's the confidence to really say that to people and be like, trust in me as the social media expert. I've seen this, I've analysed it, and this is what I'm saying back to you. I imagine at the Albright, confidence is something you are all really keen on like building with everybody. I mean, it's the ethos of the organization, but as a team, as team members, I'm sure there's a lot of like trying to build that confidence between yourselves.
100%. It's one of the most like popular topics within the community.
Especially for women. It's like women in the workplace, like that confidence. We are not built with it. We are not taught to cultivate it at all, really, depending where you've come from. It's just hard, really, and you come into all these different spaces. And what I've noticed as a woman, especially when working in social, is that, like, okay, is my confidence welcome here? Is it? And I imagine, like, I've seen from like people who personally Albright, like, they have reacted to those challenges that women have in the workplace of like, I want to assert myself, but I don't want to be taken in this way. I don't want to like dampen my sort of like knowledge or sort of spirit in a workplace and not try and be myself, which is what a lot of women do end up contending with.
100%. It's always, yeah, our most highly engaged and gets people talking when people are sharing those stories, and how women can get comfortable with self-promoting, which again is super important on social media. That's what you want to be doing for your business or brand. You are self-promoting, and also that it's okay to it's promote ourselves and be confident in skills and our abilities. And again, that other side of it that you touched on, being able to say, yes, we tried this, it didn't work, and being, that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed or that wasn't a good idea. It just means you tried something, because we do shy away even from that. Even as social media managers, you want to be like, oh, I tried this, but oh, someone said something nice, but it didn't get good engagement. And it's just being able to say, yeah, tried that, didn't work, like, here's the next idea. And being comfortable with that is definitely still something I work on every day.
This is the more juicier question. What has been your biggest mistake as a social media manager, and how did you fix it?
I'd say my biggest mistake would have been, we had a big campaign. It was a big summit. It was a virtual event that we've been working on for months, and I had all my content plan to up to the event, like launch plan, teaser plan, launch plan, up to it. And then the day of the event was the kind of the day that came to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's my content plan? And it had been so focused on teasing it and launching it that came to the day and was just like, came to the morning and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared. So that was definitely the big mistake, big learning curve for me. How do I fix it? Just, I've implemented a checklist whenever we're running a bigger campaign. Literally just a to-do list, like, have you done this, have you done this, have you sent it to these people, for myself, to just make sure you're ticking off all those boxes, not to make that mistake again, because you don't want to big something up and then not come through with it again on social on your first touch point, and the drum roll and then the crescendo at the end.
How would you summarize your social media journey from where you started to where you are today?
I would summarize it as just a huge learning curve, which for some people in their careers is probably not what interests them. But to me, that is what is exciting to me, that every day you are learning something new. Like, I'll look at things I posted a couple of months ago and be like, I could have done that better, or that wasn't a best representation of what I can do. And I just think, which means you're always developing and you're always building on your skills. So the curve is kind of like this, like a squiggly line, but also moving upwards at the same time. That would probably be biggest learning curve, but enjoying the ride.
What do you think the future of social media looks like for your industry within the, say, next 3 years?
The next 3 years, I think, will be a really interesting time for social media because, as we've seen even more recently since the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, all these important, really, really important things that have happened across globally, there's a bigger awareness on social media for mental health and how we're serving the audience and the people that you'll follow. Are they making you feel good about yourself? Are they helping you day to day? And I just think in the next few years, there's just going to be even more responsibility for brands to be thought leaders and getting involved in those conversations that matter and pioneering change, especially the industry I work in and careers and women and equality and empowerment. I just think people are going to, and our audience will even more be looking to us to be igniting those conversations and asking the difficult questions so that we can continue to make change across the board. And I think that will ripple through to all industries.
Now is the time for our quick fire round. Daisy, are you ready?
I think so. No, I am. No, I'm ready.
How did you feel in one word when Facebook went down?
Terrified.
Instagram or Pinterest?
Instagram.
First social media site you ever signed up to?
Bebo.
What is the worst social media trend around at the moment?
For me, dancing. I can't dance. And dancing on Reels and TikToks.
What private members club do you really want to be a member for?
The Albright.
Brilliant answer. I would have been like, if she says so her house, that would be well embarrassing for everybody involved. So that's everything for Confessions of a Social Media Manager with Daisy Guy. Thank you, Daisy, for joining us. Where can people find you?
Thank you so much, Erin. I loved our conversation today. You can find Albright at Albright on Instagram, and you can find me, Daisy Guy, also on the Albright app, which you can download and join the community for free. So please connect with me on there, and please, I encourage you to join the Albright community. There's lots of incredible women on there that you can start connecting with, and you never know when you might meet someone who can change your life and change your career.